Let's be honest here. Us humans have a nasty habit of absolutely destroying anything pure and natural for personal gain, and it has been so for centuries. Over the course of time, we have found increasingly ingenious and brutal ways of turning a thriving body of water into a pile of delicious meat, or even better, a pile of delicious but deviously deprived dollars. By looking back on the history of fishing, we can learn how we managed to turn this ocean of a few thousand years ago into whatever this is, and learned how a few humans with sharp sticks devolved into the various fishing methods we see today. Just like poorly drawn educational videos, the history of fishing is kind of interesting, but also not very pleasant to look at. We have evidence to suggest that humans have been fishing for thousands of years. This guy's name is Tianyuan Man, an East Asian modern human found about 40,000 years ago, whose bone structure and composition shows that he regularly consumed fish. Cave paintings from a similar time show that ancient people viewed fish and other sea creatures as prominent sources of food. In fact, the vast majority of human settlements show some evidence of being involved with fishing. But how exactly did these modern humans catch fish? Well, I am willing to bet that most went with the classic naked bear approach until one of them invented this thing, the harpoon. During the Paleolithic era, we used these things to hunt fish as well as mollusks like octopuses. Heck, if you lived by the ocean, you and the Paleolithic era boys could go harpooning for seals on a Friday night. These tools spread around the world during the Neolithic and led to more brilliant advancements such as fish drugs. I am not kidding. The Native Americans of the California coast were known to use plant toxins to, and I quote Wikipedia here, to induce torpor in stream fish to enable their capture, in addition to hook and line, which we will talk about later. Fishing technology progressed as everyday tech did, as shown by the invention of nets, fishing boats, and primitive hook and line stuff, until eventually humans discovered that there are shiny bendy rocks, and look at that, copper harpoons on strings used by some guy in India. The Aboriginal tribes of the Indian Islands are known to be one of the first groups to use these modified spears to great effect, as well as the Egyptians, who, along with boats, nets, and hook and line, fished the plentiful bounties of the Nile River. By the 9th dynasty, they had also made the switch to better materials by implementing metal hooks with barbs. For whatever reason, the article I was reading emphasized that the fish were, and I quote, clubbed to death after capture, which makes me wonder just how many fish did the Egyptians club to death for us to know this so many years later and to make it worth mentioning. The ancient Egyptians provided some of the earliest evidence for fishing as a pastime as well, so that's pretty cool. Eventually, some folks in the Middle East looked around and were like, not enough pain and suffering, and they invented the gill net, a long, thin net that, when suspended in water like so, is capable of ensnaring fish by the gills as they try to swim through, as well as literally anything else. These were highly effective and spread around the world just like the harpoon was. Native Americans along the West Coast developed these separately, and they are still a crucial part of their traditions and are used for salmon and steelhead fishing. One of the oldest and most famous examples of exploiting fish for profit is the cod trade. Dried cod called stockfish was exported from the Lofoten area to parts of Europe, including Italy, Spain, and Portugal. Starting around 800 AD, this trade lasted around 1,000 years, surviving multiple disasters such as the Black Death. During the 15th century, some people literally everywhere, somewhat industrialized, were like, more money, please. So they began to transform industrial fishing from the very brutal small to moderate scale endeavor of the past to the very brutal large-scale slaughter we know today. Now there is a ridiculous amount of information on this topic. The Wikipedia page alone has all of this info, which you are crazy if you think I'm going to read all that. So basically, here's a summary. Big fleets of boats full of new tech can sail farther and drag big nets around called trawlers, which catch loads of fish and other stuff, and wow, look at that, steam power. To be fair, not all modern-day fishing is about quantity and profit. Recreational fishing is an extremely popular pastime in the modern day. Historically, recreational fishing was viewed as something for the wealthy, with the rise of fly fishing across a lot of the Western world. However, with technological advancements such as the creation of ever stronger, clearer lines and plastic lures, Recreational fishing has become a very accessible activity that generates billions of dollars each year for the wealthy, just like the cod trade of a couple grandparents ago. Well, there you have it, the history of fishing. Kinda gross, isn't it?